Hello, my name is Tanya, and I'm going to be reading from my collection called Pumpkin Belly and Other Stories. And the story I'm going to read is called The Guava Tree. So, Keisha was a young girl who lived in a village high in the mountains. She lived with her stepfather, her mother having died when she was a very little girl. Keisha's stepfather reared pigs, goats, and cows. He also grew crops like red peas, corn, and vegetables. Every morning before school, Keisha had to tie out the goats and feed the pigs. Then in the evening, when she came home from school, she had to bring the goats back to their pen. When she came back with the goat, she had to prepare dinner and wash her stepfather's clothes. Keisha's stepfather treated her very badly. When her mother was alive, he treated Keisha well. But once her mother died, he became mean. He made Keisha work very hard and gave her little to eat, so she was a very skinny girl. One day, when Keisha took the goats out into the field, the billy goat was being very stubborn and tried to drag her about. Because the goat was very strong, it ended up pulling Keisha to a part of the field that nobody went to anymore. This place was overgrown with weeds. In the middle of the tall winter grass was a large guava tree with lovely ripe guavas on it. Being very hungry, Keisha quickly picked some of the fruit and started to eat. It was the most delicious thing she had ever eaten. The fruit tasted just like a guava. But when she picked the next fruit, it tasted like brown stewed chicken. Another fruit tasted like roasted yellow yam, and another tasted like ackee and saltfish. Keisha was so happy. She wanted to go on eating forever. But she knew she should not be too greedy because she would need to come to the tree again. That night, when Keisha got home, she was happier than she remembered being for a very long time. She went to bed happy, not minding the cold wind that came across the mountain and made its way under the thin covers. While she slept, she dreamt. She dreamt of her mother sitting below the guava tree. Keisha, my girl, my one and only child, said her mother, stroking Keisha's head. I planted this tree right here so for you. Don't worry. I plant your navel string under that tree, and for as long as you live, it will grow. I did that because I wanted to make sure that you would get everything you deserve. The tree will take care of you. And with that, Keisha's mother was gone. Keisha wanted to tell her mother how much she loved her. She felt good knowing that her mother had planted a tree for her, so would take care of her. For the first time in a long while, Keisha woke up happy. After that, Keisha returned to the tree every day. In the morning, when she came to tie out the goats, she ate breakfast from it and put a few guavas in her pocket for lunch. And in the evening, when she came to take the goats back home, she ate dinner. Keisha was careful to keep eating what her stepfather gave her. She did not want him to make him suspicious. She knew that if she stopped eating the crust of bread and butter that he gave her for breakfast or the little food he gave her in the evening, he would realize that she was getting food from somewhere else. Though Keisha tried to make everything appear normal, after a while, her stepfather noticed that she was getting fatter. She no longer looked like skin and bones, and her skin now glowed a healthy brown. So one day, he decided to to see follow her to see where she was getting food. Her stepfather was sure she was stealing from him. He followed her to the field and saw her tie out the goats, then go down into her mother's old garden. While he lay on his belly in the tall grass, he watched her pick the fruit and eat them. The stepfather could not believe his eyes. How could she be getting fat on guavas? These fruits must be made of magic, he thought. So, after Keisha left, he decided to try and pick some of the fruits. He realized that if they were magic guavas, he would make a fortune at the market. When Keisha left, the stepfather reached for the nearest fruit, but he could not pick it. It was just out of his reach. He was sure that it had been lower. He tried to jump and pick it. Still, he could not reach it. He climbed the tree, but the trunk just getting taller and taller, so he could not reach the fruits. Finally, in anger, he went for his cutlass and he chopped the tree down. Stepfather then waited in the bushes until Keisha came back in the evening. When the young girl found the tree lying on the ground with the fruits already beginning to wither, she burst into tears. "Oh, Mama, you see how they're treating your one picnic? Your only child?" Keisha cried. "What am I going to do, Mama? How do I get what I deserve when the tree you left me is gone?" She cried until night came and then took home her goats. That night she was so sad she did not even eat her crust of bread. After Keisha wandered home, her stepfather got an idea. He picked up one of the guavas that had fallen on the ground and took it home. When he got there, he planted it in his own special garden just above their house. He hoped that, like Keisha, he would get what he deserved. The next morning when he awoke, he went to look at the plant. Overnight, it had grown into a massive tree. But the fruits were not guavas. They were long whip-like plants. He picked one to take a closer look at it. Suddenly, the whip came to life and gave the stepfather a sound beating. As the whip beat him, the tree showed him images of how Keisha had suffered and how badly he had treated her because of his despair at her mother's death. The stepfather felt great regret for his behavior. He wanted to make it up to his stepdaughter, but he did not know how. In the meantime, Keisha had taken the goats to the field. She had already mourned the loss of her tree, but she was not a fenke girl. Even though she was quite skinny, years spent carrying buckets of water on her head or cutting and carrying home wood for the fire had made her quite strong. She was also a good farmer, so she went to see if the tree had completely died. When she got to the spot, she realized that there was a chance to save the bit of trunk that was left. Keisha began to tend the tree and tried to coax it back to life. When she got home that night, she found her stepfather in bed. He was very sick, having been overcome by grief. He apologized to her for the way he had treated her over the years. "Keisha, I beg you to forgive me," he said. "I did not realize what I was doing to you. I am so sorry. Your poor mother left you in my care, and look how I treated you." Though Keisha felt a lot of resentment in her heart, she knew better than to keep bitterness inside because it only made you unhappy. So she forgave her stepfather. Soon after, he died. With the help of others in the village who took pity on the young orphan girl, Keisha grew to be a great farmer and was renowned for making the best guava jam in the island. Jack Mandora, Mina choose none.